In this RCM Roundup, I give an update on the lessons that I've learned as an experienced medical biller and coder from the Change Healthcare cyber attack. I also give advice on why right now would be a great time for organizations to consider hiring new and aspiring medical billers and coders. Check it out. Okay, y'all. So the next topic I want to talk about is I want to, give an update on the Change Healthcare cyber attack fallout. This video is going to be really good because this video, there's something in this video for everybody. If you're a newbie starting out in this space for the first time, you're going to get like a crash course in what to do from, step one as it relates to a situation like this. If you are a seasoned professional in the medical billing and coding space, we're going to go a little bit back to basics, and if you are a techie and you don't know what it's like to ever look at a paper claim form or things of that nature, you're going to get enlightened and you'll get a different perspective. So this little roundup got something for everybody. Okay, so if this is your first time checking out the channel, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Okay, so the Change Healthcare cyber attack, aka the disaster wrapped up in a fiasco. Okay, they got hacked at the end of February. Allegedly had to pay an absurd amount of money to get the data released, and at present date, we got reports. Haven't seen it. I only checked at the beginning of the week. I haven't checked recently, full disclosure. But there are reports that another company is threatening to release the information. I'm not sure, allegedly, how accurate that is. But long story short, in my last video, I put out a pretty extensive video on this when it initially went down. I explained why, even if Change Healthcare is not your clearinghouse, that this impacts you because a lot of the major payers work with Change Healthcare. So they use Change Healthcare to receive the claim data that we send to them. Most payers have not started back doing business with Change Healthcare. Most payers at this moment, because this happened at the end of February, so we're talking about 7 weeks ago. Most of the major payers who have worked with Change Healthcare have come up with alternate ways to move their data, but there is still a significant fallout. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that I faced at the company that I work at. Obviously, I'm not disclosing the company that I work for, things of that nature. I'm going to give information that's very broad and can apply to you no matter what organization you work for. So initially, when this whole cyber attack happened, the primary issue was getting your claims to the insurance company, right? Because immediately, once the news broke that they got hacked, all of the major players or everyone that works with them started shutting down their connection. It was like a hurricane rolling through town, like a Category 5 hurricane, and they're telling you get out of town. Everybody got out of town and said, I'm not messing with you, Change Healthcare. So even though they cut off the connection, the problem from the provider perspective is providers thought their claims were going through without any issues. And then they started getting these weird rejections that didn't make sense because a lot of the clearinghouses started kicking back the claims. So I can't really get too granular because then this video would become a lot longer. And as I always say, this is not the most exciting stuff to talk about. So I want to get in, get out. So what we noticed is we started getting some weird denials and our claims started kicking back. And then obviously the news broke and we saw the extent of what happened. And in my mind, as someone who's worked in this field at a time when we relied very heavily, I started out when we relied very heavily on paper claims. In my mind, I was just like, all right, well, just drop the claims to paper. We're going to default to paper. And that was a great plan, right? So the first tip I'm going to give you, though, is because so many of us have not billed paper claims in so long, you need to make sure that you have the most recent claims mailing address for your insurance payers, right? Because what we noticed is, for example, we had a couple outdated addresses. The practice management system we were using, had been in use for many years. So a lot of these payers had the mailing address that we had when we originally set up the system. So we sent out bills and then called like a week later and realized that the claims were not on file, or like 10 days later and realized the claims was not on file. And then immediately, our team is trained to verify you have the correct mailing address. And when they checked the address, we did not. So best practice number one, because, and let me help you out, there will be another cyber attack. Like, don't think, oh my God, I can't wait till this is over so we can get back to normal. Nope, that's the wrong way to think. You need to be thinking, what do we need to do differently the next time this goes down, okay? And I already went into all of this in the last video about technology, so I'm not gonna regurgitate that again. Love technology, but she goes left. So make sure all of your claims addresses are accurate so that the next time you have to default to a paper environment, that's not one of your problems. And you might even want to just set something in place where someone just checks at the beginning of every year. Someone just checks all your major payers and you make sure that the addresses are accurate. So that's number one. Okay, so once we fixed our paper submission, because that was phase one. Phase one was getting the bill to the insurance company, right? Because there's nothing to talk about if they don't have the bill. The next thing we ran into was making sure that we do old school follow-up, calling on every claim, making sure that the claim was received by the insurance company, that a claim number was assigned, and it is being processed. And when you are in an environment where you're dealing with a cyber attack and you're trying to confirm that all of your bills got to the insurance company, you have to approach it with a different mindset than, let's say, if you're working on your traditional AR. Now, normally, when you submit your bills, you're not calling on those claims right away, right? You probably don't start, because in your mind, you're like, I'm going to release these bills. I'm going to give it 30 to 60 days because that's about the average time. And if the claims are not paid by like 45 or 60 days, then I'm going to start calling. If your bills didn't make it because of a cyber attack, if you wait 45 to 60 days to start calling on those claims and those claims didn't make it to the insurance company, my God, okay? So in a situation like this, you need to have a plan in place where you're going to make sure that every claim, if you have the manpower, that your team is checking every claim and making sure that every claim is on file, because you don't know that that huge pocket of bills that you sent out actually made it to the insurance company. And unless you have it like that fiscally, where even if it doesn't make it 45 days later, you're good. Not many organizations function that way. So it's important for you to know if they got to the insurance company sooner rather than later. And the way you do that is you do that through traditional follow-up. You can do follow-up with insurance reps on the phone. You can do follow-up through automated systems. And my personal favorite and the most efficient way is to do follow-up online. So you need to have a tight follow-up process in place to make sure, because what we saw was some of the information that even our clearinghouse vendor was sending us didn't match with what the insurance company was saying to us. So, and again, it's a very unique situation. No one was really planning for this. So can I blame them for the inconsistent information? Not this time, but next time I will. But better to be safe than sorry, and make sure that you're following up on every claim. And it brings me to my next point. So the next area where we saw that we got affected was getting EOBs, explanation of benefits. For my newbies, because I always got to break it down. Every time a claim is processed and paid by an insurance payer, they issue something called an explanation of benefits. And it's basically a summary of what we billed, what they allowed in terms of our charges, what they paid or denied, etc. So many of these payers, we were signed up for the electronic version of EOBs, which are ERAs, electronic remittance advices. So because of the cyber attack, and because so many of the major players cut off contact to Change Healthcare, we noticed that we were not getting ERAs. So we could not, track, even if we were waiting for the ERAs to come in to see how claims processed, we were flying in the dark because some of the major players, I'm talking about Horizon, I'm talking about like Health First, some of the major players were not sending ERAs through our clearinghouse. So you have to be prepared for that. Hopefully you've noticed that by now. Hopefully you've noticed you're not getting all your ERAs. If you haven't, then you're probably not getting all your ERAs. So you might want to look into that. So we had to come up with alternate ways to capture this information. And lucky for us, we had access to a lot of the insurance portals. So instead of relying on the data to flow through our clearinghouse, which we knew the data was not flowing through our clearinghouse because they cut off contact to Change Healthcare, we were able to go directly to the insurance payer's website for most of these insurance companies and get the explanation of benefits, see how the claims processed. Which brings me to another point. If you are working in a practice and you guys are not registered with all of the insurance portals that you possibly could register with for all of the payers that your practice does business with, let this be the moment where you start registering for portal access to all these payers, because portal access is not going to only make you more efficient when you need to check the status of claims during a time like this or in general. Portal access will also allow you to get your EOBs so that you can post your payments for your month-end reconciliations, so you can follow up on your unpaid claims. So portal access becomes very important in a time like this, where the normal methods that you would typically rely on to get your data is not working properly. And then I'm going to go into my last point, because I'm not going to make this video as long as the previous video I did on this subject matter. This is a great opportunity because I know that there are some companies that are like, I don't have the manpower. My staff, my biller can't, she doesn't have the time, or he doesn't have the time to call on every single claim. This is a great opportunity to explore hiring newbies, okay? Because it is fairly simple to teach a newbie, someone who doesn't have as much experience, how to go in and get this information. Now is not a time to pinch pennies. Let me put it that way. Now is a great time to consider bringing in someone who may not have, a ton of experience, but you can teach them how to call the insurance company, provide them with the necessary information that they need to obtain claim status, and they can do a lot of this follow-up for you and free up the time of your biller to work on more, or your billing manager to work on more complex issues. So if you are a practice that, you don't have the resources, the manpower resources, there are a lot of entry-level individuals that are looking for an opportunity to get their foot in the door, and doing medical collections is a great way to do that. So definitely consider hiring a newbie to assist you during a time like this. And I think those are the most important points that I wanted to go over. Make sure that you have your correct claims mailing addresses in the system. Make sure to check the status of your claims fairly quickly. You can't work under the normal follow-up. You have to, check sooner. So if any problems come up, you identify them sooner. Make sure that you get online access to all of the portals, because after you get all your claims out the door, the next wall you're going to run into with this cyber attack is getting all of your ERAs from all of the different payers. So now is the time to register for portal access. And then last, invest in newbies. This is a great opportunity to give newbies a chance while you navigate the difficulties of this cyber attack. We're seeing so many horror stories. We're reading so many horror stories about providers, like literally their revenue drying up as a result of this cyber attack. And it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, but we have to have a level of preparedness that we didn't have before. And I think, with some of the newer individuals entering this field, they don't really come from an era where we did things on a more manual level. So they're not going to mentally automatically default to that. But speaking for myself personally, I'm always hitting my and then it gives feedback. I'm sorry. But speaking for myself personally, when this attack happened, I automatically swung into Tiffany circa 1999, starting out at SUNY Downstate. Shout out to SUNY medical billing. And I was like, drop them the paper. I want a list of every claim that went out the door during this period and this period. We need to make sure it was just automatic to me. But if you are someone who came in, when we are at this, technological renaissance, that quite frankly is shaping up to look like a nightmare, but that's another story. But you don't have those experiences to lean on. So I think it's important to bring that type of discussion into this technological renaissance that we're going through, because we have to assume that this is not the last time that something like this will happen. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. Again, if you liked everything you heard today and you found this channel interesting, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I will see you all very soon in another RCM Roundup. Much love. Thank you for hanging out with me. Peace out.